Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're diving headfirst into the wacky world of U.S. immigration law. Remember that dusty old law from 1798, the Alien Enemies Act? Yeah, the one meant for wartime? Well, it crawled out of its crypt recently, causing quite a stir. The Trump administration tried to use this relic to deport members of a Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. They argued the gang was a threat, like a foreign invasion. Sounds dramatic, right? Well, a judge in Washington, D.C. wasn't buying it. He slammed the brakes on this legal strategy, at least for now. Judge James E. Boasberg, the man with the gavel, issued a temporary restraining order. This legal pause button blocks the deportations based on the 1798 law. Why? He essentially said using this law against a gang was like bringing a musket to a tank fight, completely out of touch. The Trump administration cried foul, claiming the law gave the president broad power to boot out threats. They argued the gang was dangerous enough to warrant this drastic measure. The judge, however, saw it as an executive power trip, a misuse of a law meant for very different circumstances. This legal back and forth isn't just about abstract principles, it has real consequences. Migrants like Henry Carmona, who fled Venezuela after death threats, were suddenly facing deportation because of this old law. The judge's ruling gave them a temporary reprieve, a chance to breathe while their cases are reviewed. But let's be clear, the ruling doesn't mean deportations have stopped altogether. Other immigration laws are still in effect. This case, however, highlights the precarious situation of many migrants who find themselves tangled in a web of complex and often confusing legal battles. Behind the legal jargon and political posturing are real people with hopes, dreams, and fears. Take Juan Hernandez, a migrant who, after the ruling, dared to hope for a different outcome in his own case. His story, like countless others, reminds us that this isn't just a theoretical debate, it's about human lives hanging in the balance. Then there's Joan Bastidas, who wasn't so lucky. He was deported from Guantanamo Bay Naval Base back to Venezuela. His story is a stark reminder of the human cost of these policies, the shattered dreams and broken families left in their wake. Section 5. Back in Time. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798. To understand this whole mess, we need to hop in a time machine and travel back to 1798. Imagine stepping into a world vastly different from our own, where the streets are lined with horse-drawn carriages, and the air is filled with the scent of wood smoke. The United States is still in its infancy, having declared independence just a couple of decades earlier. Picture this: America, a fledgling nation, is on the brink of war with France. The young country is trying to find its footing while navigating the treacherous waters of international politics. The French Revolution has sent shockwaves across the Atlantic, and the U.S. is feeling the tremors. Paranoia is running high, and Congress, in its infinite wisdom, passes the Alien Enemies Act. This piece of legislation is part of the larger Alien and Sedition Acts, a series of 4 laws aimed at protecting the nation from foreign threats and internal dissent. The atmosphere in Congress is tense, with heated debates and fervent speeches echoing through the chambers. This law gave the president the power to detain and deport non-citizens from enemy nations during wartime. It was a sweeping authority, allowing the executive branch to act swiftly and decisively in the face of perceived threats. The president could now target individuals based solely on their nationality, a move that would be highly controversial by today's standards. Think of it as a legal weapon aimed at potential spies and saboteurs. The fear of espionage was palpable, and the government was determined to root out any threats to national security. This act was seen as a necessary measure to protect the fledgling nation from the dangers lurking in the shadows. It was a different time, folks, a time of powdered wigs and muskets, not Twitter feuds and international criminal networks. The challenges faced by the early American government were unique to their era, and their solutions, while sometimes draconian, were shaped by the context of their time. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 stands as a testament to the lengths a young nation would go to protect itself in an uncertain world. Section 6. From French warships to street gangs, a law out of context. Fast forward to the present day, and we see the Trump administration trying to fit this square peg of a law into the round hole of modern immigration enforcement. This law, originally crafted in the 18th century, was designed to address the very specific context of French warships and the threats they posed during a time of naval warfare. It was a different era, with different challenges and enemies. The law was a product of its time, meant to protect the young American nation from foreign powers that could threaten its sovereignty and security. They argued that a gang, albeit a dangerous one, was the modern-day equivalent of a hostile foreign power. The administration's stance was that these gangs, with their violent activities and organized structures, posed a significant threat to public safety and national security. They believed that the law could be repurposed to combat these modern threats, drawing a parallel between the organized crime of today and the naval threats of the past. Legal experts cried foul, pointing out the obvious. A street gang, however violent, is not a nation-state. They emphasized that the law was never intended to be used in this manner. The legal community was vocal in its criticism, arguing that repurposing the law in this way was a misinterpretation of its original intent. They highlighted the fundamental differences between a criminal organization and a foreign power, stressing that the law was not equipped to handle the complexities of modern criminal activity. The law was designed for wartime, not for dealing with criminal activity even on a large scale. It was meant to address the specific threats posed by foreign nations during times of conflict, not the internal issues of crime and gang violence. The historical context of the law is crucial to understanding its limitations and the reasons why it may not be suitable for modern-day applications. It's like using a butter knife to cut down a tree, the wrong tool for the job. The analogy underscores the impracticality and inefficiency of using an outdated law to address contemporary issues. Just as a butter knife is ill-suited for cutting down a tree, a law designed for 18th century naval warfare is ill-equipped to tackle the complexities of 21st century gang violence and immigration enforcement. The need for updated context-appropriate legislation is clear, highlighting the importance of crafting laws that are fit for their intended purpose and the times in which they are applied. Section 7, Ripple Effects, Immigration Policy, and the Balance of Power. This case isn't just about one law or one gang, it has far-reaching implications for U.S. immigration policy and the balance of power in government. The decisions made in this courtroom could set precedents that affect millions of lives, shaping the future of immigration enforcement and the role of various branches of government in the United States. The judge's ruling, while temporary, serves as a check on executive power, a reminder that even the president is not above the law. This ruling underscores the importance of the judiciary in maintaining a balance of power, ensuring that no single branch of government can overstep its bounds without accountability. It also highlights the ongoing debate about immigration enforcement in America. This debate is not just a legal or political issue, it is a deeply personal and emotional one for many people. Communities across the nation are divided, with passionate arguments on both sides about what is fair, just, and necessary for the country's future. On one side, you have those who believe in stricter controls, who see the law as a necessary tool to protect national security. They argue that without robust enforcement, the country's borders are vulnerable, and the safety of its citizens is at risk. For them, the law is a critical component of a broader strategy to maintain order and security. On the other side are those who advocate for the rights of immigrants, who see this law as a relic of a bygone era, misused and out of touch with modern realities. They believe that the law unfairly targets vulnerable populations and perpetuates a cycle of fear and discrimination. For these advocates, the focus should be on creating a more inclusive and humane immigration system that reflects the values of a diverse and evolving society. The history of immigration in the United States is a story of constant change and adaptation. From the early waves of European immigrants to the more recent influxes from Latin America, Asia, and Africa, each group has faced its own set of challenges and opportunities. The current debate is just the latest chapter in this ongoing narrative, one that will continue to evolve as the nation grapples with its identity and values. As policymakers, legal experts, and community leaders continue to discuss and debate these issues, the decisions made today will have lasting impacts. It is a complex and multifaceted issue that requires careful consideration and a willingness to listen to all perspectives. Only through thoughtful dialogue and collaboration can a balanced and effective immigration policy be achieved. Section 8. The Big Picture. What does it all mean? So what's the takeaway from this legal roller coaster? First, it reminds us that even old, seemingly obscure laws can have a real impact on people's lives. Second, it highlights the ongoing tension between national security concerns and the rights of individuals, especially those who are not U.S. citizens. Finally, it underscores the importance of judicial review, the idea that the courts can act as a check on the other branches of government, ensuring that laws are applied fairly and justly. Section 9. Your turn. Join the conversation. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you think the judge made the right call by blocking the use of the Alien Enemies Act in this case? How should the U.S. balance national security concerns with the rights of migrants? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.